This is Killer Innovations, a show about ideas, creativity, and how you can innovate. Welcome to the Innovator's Garage, where you learn to create your next game-changing killer innovation.
Welcome to Killer Innovations this week. This is a little bit of a different show. It's been quite a while since I've shot a video dedicated to the topic that we are talking about. Sometimes we'll capture videos while I'm here in the studio in Northern Colorado, but today we're actually going to take advantage of some tools. And what we're going to do is we're actually going to do a virtual brainstorm. We're all facing the challenges today with COVID-19 and disruption, and how do you think about your current business if you're running a business, or what opportunities could you identify as a result of COVID-19 that could be new businesses for you. That is what we're going to do today. We are going to brainstorm. Normally I teach you about the tools and the methods and etc., but this gives you the ability to actually watch me brainstorm around two questions that I think are pressing today around the impact from COVID-19. Now, as I said, I'm going to use one tool. Today's tool I'm going to show you is Google Jamboard. Very popular tool. Think of it as Google Docs for the brainstorming, post-it note kind of team activities. It's a very nice tool. One, it's free. Two, is it allows for teams to virtually collaborate. So you could fire up a Zoom meeting, run Jamboard. You can be putting up post-it notes. Other people scattered around the world could be adding their post-it notes. Each could be dragging and dropping and grouping as you go in real time. So it's a very nice tool, and again, it's free. So it's available to everybody. And you can do sharing, so you can share out the final results to your teams, grab an image, download it to a PDF. Lots of flexibility. So that's the tool we're going to use today, is Google Jamboard. In the future, I'm be showing you some other tools that I use. Some of those are paid for tools, things you'd have to buy a subscription to. But today we're going to focus on using Jamboard around COVID-19 and really addressing two key questions. Now, as I said, we're going to do this in real time. So you're watching this as a live activity. And one is hopefully maybe some of the ideas that get posted up onto this Jamboard, onto this virtual brainstorm that we're going to have, can spark ideas for you to either think about your current businesses and how you're impacted by COVID-19, or are there new ideas for new businesses that are going to emerge as a result of COVID-19? So that is what we're going to talk about today. Now, let's talk a little bit about COVID-19. Now, we've all been experiencing it. Let's see. My wife and I went into kind of what I call self-isolation here on our ranch in Northern Colorado as of March 14th. We literally have not left the house since then. We did one little drive one day, and that's been it. I'm actually a little worried. I got to get out and start the car, make sure the battery's not dead. And look, my wife and I, we are incredibly blessed. We have some acreage up here, so we can go out and walk and don't have to worry about the social isolation, etc. And I hope everybody that's listening to the show is staying safe, and we will all get through this. We will look back upon this as just yet another one of those experiences. But the fact of the matter is we don't know when COVID-19 is going to end. We don't know whether this is going to be with us for a number of years, or if it's going to be taken care of and get out of the way. Now, with COVID-19, we've seen large number of people applying for unemployment benefits. Governments around the world are stepping in to provide economic help to their citizens who are impacted. Businesses have been shut down, whether that's restaurants or retail stores or any variety across any kind of industries. And what I've seen in my conversations with CEOs in leading organizations has been couple different fundamental responses. One is the total freak out, like, pausing, like, oh, I got to hurry up and hoard cash, shut down all my expenses, furlough all my employees, and basically cocoon until we get to the other side. The other leaders have said, you know something, I'm going to kind of try to keep it at a steady state. I'm going to continue to invest, knowing that when I get to the other side, those investments that I'm making now will pay back in dividends. History shows that businesses and industries that continue to invest during the crises, any crises for that matter, always come out stronger and better than their peers on the other side. Doesn't mean to increase, doesn't mean to go crazy and just, throw money out there. But if you stay your course, stay the plan, continue to do those investments, when you get to the other side, you are much stronger than your peers. So my encouragement is use this time to innovate, come up with ideas, come up with new businesses, new products, new services, new whatever it is that you think you should come up with. So, as I've shared before with some of you in phone conversations, or if you've been joining some of the Zoom chats I've been hosting, you know where I sit. I'm in this camp which says continue to make these investments, continue to invest, spend the time innovating, spend the time brainstorming, coming up with those new products and ideas. So that is what we're going to do today, and we're going to start right now. So what we're going to do is we're going to use this tool called Jamboard, as you can see it on the screen, assuming you are watching this on video. It basically looks like just an open canvas of white space that you can post things to. And what we're going to do is we're going to think about this context of the questions we're going to ask. And you see the question at the top here: what customer segments could be significantly impacted as a result of COVID-19? If you've been a long-time follower, you know that this is a variation of a question that is in the Killer Question card deck, which I will also embed a link in the show notes, or you can find it over on Amazon if you're interested. Took one of the 48 questions, reworded it slightly, and we're going to talk about what customer segments could be significantly impacted as a result of COVID-19. And then later in the show, we're going to talk about a second question, which is what customer segments could emerge as a result of COVID-19. Now, the answers to these two questions could spark ideas in a couple different areas. One is to change what you're doing today, if you have a current segment of customers you serve that's impacted, or create segments to test ideas of products or services for segments that could emerge. Now, let me just give you a quick 30 seconds on the use of how how Jamboard actually works. So the very top is just a text that I put up there just to remind me what the question is. And down the side, you've got pens, you got erasers, you got select, which allows you to move the Post-it notes around. You can create a Post-it note, you can embed an image, or I can create a laser. And a laser allows me to do things like I can, draw a circle around the text like that, and then the laser goes away. So what we're going to do is here, we'll just do a quick test Post-it note just so you can see. So if I type the word test, note / test idea, and then I hit the save, it now appears. Now, once I can grab that note, now I can actually move it around the screen. I can put it up someplace, and I can go. Now, I can do a whole number of ideas really quickly and just get them thrown up onto the board itself. And now I can take these and group them or stack them on top of each other, etc. And I can also very easily delete them. So as you can see, the tool is incredibly easy to use. And what I really like about the Jamboard tool is the ability, one, to convert the resulting board that you create as a PDF. You can also just snap it as a picture, like a JPEG, and post it to social media. And like most Google tools, up here you do have the share option. So you can invite people to come and be part of brainstorming, etc. And the nice thing is when you invite people, you can be throwing up post ideas. They can be throwing up ideas via kind of these virtual post-it notes, as I like to refer to them as. And then as a result, you can then do this simultaneously, and everybody can see everybody's ideas, and you can drag and drop, you can combine them, etc. So this is the tool we're going to use today for the virtual brainstorming activity. And now we're going to take a quick commercial break before we actually start putting up the first ideas. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after this break. So let's talk about ideas for the question that we want to deal with. What customer segments could be significantly impacted as a result of COVID-19? So what are some of those ideas? Well, one idea that I was thinking about is what I'm calling, sports and concert fans, right? These are the people who, have a real desire to go do these kinds of social activities. They like going to live sports events. So these are not the people who are sitting on the couch, but they go into music venues. They're going to stadiums. They're going to these outdoor concerts, those types. Those are segments that are going to be significantly, impact. They thrive off of kind of this social experience. This getting people together. Let's face it. With COVID-19, I'm not quite sure people are going to be wanting to run back and get into crowds. They may shift to, looking for online sports. We've seen some sports. I live in Colorado. I own a ranch. I watch PBR, professional bull riding, is my sport of choice these days. And PBR actually was doing a number of events before the big lockdown happened, where they were still doing bull riding, but it was at stadiums with no fans. A little bit different experience. Italy, the soccer teams performed or had matches in stadiums with no fans. I don't know what this is going to mean as far as the future is going to be, but if you're serving the sports and concert fans or people who want to get into groups in the social experience, things are different. The other segment that I thought was an interesting one is travel influencers. So these are the people who, travel around and they do reviews of resorts and show how nice it is laying on the beach. And given that travel is, pretty much shut down, this is a segment that I think is going to be very, very challenged. There's been a little bit of backlash against travel influencers anyways over the last handful of years where, Instagram or YouTube, big names, getting slammed for wanting free travel in order to, hey, I'll mention you on my blog or I'll mention you on my Instagram or whatever. So I think travel influencers just generically are going to become an issue. The other is there's going to be those businesses that are, dependent on, I don't know what to call it, dependent on, tourists would be the way I would word it, right? So this is a wide range of businesses that are dependent on tourists. Now, I live in northern Colorado, right outside my ranch here. I am near Rocky Mountain National Park, and that fact that Rocky Mountain National Park is closed and therefore closed to tourists is a big issue. It's Estes, which is the gateway town into the Rocky Mountain National Park, restaurants, retail. The ramp up going into the summer here is important. that economy is dependent on Rocky Mountain National Park, which is one of the most popular national parks here in the United States. I live about 30 minutes away. It's a beautiful park, but it is very crowded with tourists in the summer. I'm predicting that that's not going to happen. What do you do if you're in a situation where you're dependent on tourists, right? Some of the people up at Rocky Mountain, they've been doing a lot of photography, video, creating virtual tours of the park. People doing things around the edges of the park, where you can't get into the park, but you can do trails and that around the edge of the park. How do you make tourists who just think of the national park as being the only option, how do you attract them to other things? So those that are dependent on that tourist traffic, they're definitely going to be, very, very challenged. Potentially this year, and who knows, depending on when people go back to wanting to get back onto doing travel. So the other one is, and this one's an interesting one, is home buyers. Now, the logical thing here with home buyers is this tied to the fact that people are not buying homes, or is the makeup of a home different? I was talking with a number of people this week, friends and colleagues, etc. And one of the common comments that kept popping up is they wish they had purchased a house with 2 home offices, right? So if both spouses now are working from home as a result of COVID-19, one of them is in the home office, the other one's on the kitchen table. And if they've got kids running around the house, how do you work and deal with the kids? How do you create maybe a larger communal? So I think one of the things impacted by COVID-19 is as people think about house buying, the makeup of the perfect house, I think, is going to change. It's not going to be about just the yard. It's going to be about, hey, if next year COVID-19 returns, we go into another lockdown, how am I going to work from home? I'm struggling now. I'm being somewhat productive, but I need to make some changes here. And so I think that the customer segment of home buyers is going to change. Not so much that people don't buy houses or people are not going to sell. It's the type of house people are going to want to buy. The feature set of the home buyer, I think, is now going to be different. The other one, and this one is an interesting one, is the whole, what I call the foodies segment. So these are the people who are really, really into food, really into the changes. And we're seeing a lot of people who are, spending a lot more time cooking at home. And so therefore, we're seeing a lot of video channels coming up on YouTube with making it much easier to cook at home, and people buying and shipping food with complete meals has even become more popular. So I think that's interesting. And the other one is what I would call the germ conscious segment. And these are the people like, if you're not familiar with, Howie Mandel, who is on America's Got Talent. These are people, I think everyone's going to become much more conscious of germs. They're, what do you touch? Howie does not shake hands. He doesn't do doorknobs. I think we're all going to become more of that. And what kinds of products and services could you contribute to those that are becoming much more germ conscious? Hand washing is becoming much more important. The social norm of shaking hands or hugging or putting a kiss on each cheek in some countries is I don't think it's going to return anytime soon. People are going to be somewhat suspicious. So I think this whole issue, the germ conscious segment is going through a radical change. And we'll be right back after this break. Now that we focused on those segments that are going to be impacted as a result of COVID-19, let's move on to the second question. What new customer segments could emerge as a result of COVID-19? What are some of those new customer segments. So one that I came up with, which I think is kind of an interesting one, is what I call the social distancing butler. And what do I mean by a social distancing butler? A social distancing butler is that person who maybe you have a relationship because it's a family member, it's a friend, someone from your religious organization, church, synagogue, mosque that is helping you out. In our case, because we have an underlying health issue in our family here at the house, my daughter and son-in-law who live here in Colorado, they're about 20 minutes away, they in effect are providing this social distancing butler. They do everything that we need to have done that involves social interaction outside the house. So that includes things like shopping and pharmacy and stopping by the bank, going and running to the DMV to deal with renewal of car licenses and all of those kinds of things. And this is unique in the fact that, anything we need to have done, we can call them and have it done. We also have a friend who's helping out also, for instance, with grocery shopping. They live a little bit closer and they're doing the quick runs, like, need another dozen eggs or something. But I think social distancing butler, for those people who just want to stay away and reduce or eliminate that risk of any kind of an infection on COVID-19, this becomes an important role. Now, today there are no businesses that do this per se, but I think if this goes on for very long, then I think people are just going to contract themselves out rather than you going and trying to get Safeway to deliver and Walmart to deliver and get Amazon shipments in. This is the one-stop shop. You call your social distancing butler. You tell them what they need and where they can get it. I need these 2 items from Walgreens, this one from Safeway. Stop by the bank and pick up $200 at cash. Well, whatever you need, this social distancing butler goes and does it for you. Takes the stress out of, is the Amazon shipment going to show on time, or am I going to be stuck with the 11 a.m. delivery from Safeway? So I think this is going to be an interesting one. Doesn't exist today. If you like that idea, feel free, run with it, and go create a great business. And you never know, I might be one of your first customers for this. There's a variation on this that I think is a new customer segment that you may want to serve, and that is what I'm calling the COVID gig. Now, the COVID gig, you could argue, is a little bit like the social distancing. So I'm going to place the Post-it note up here next to it. And COVID gig meaning that these are people who become employees, gig employees, contractors, to what we refer to as essential businesses. So the COVID gig segment of people who are working in this economy, who you may want to sell services to, these are the people who have to, or who are working as maybe the restockers in the midnight shift at your local Walmart. They may be doing the food delivery through services like DoorDash or Uber Eats or whatever. So these are the people, it's a segment of the population who are in the gig economy, but think of it as a subset. This is a gig economy that's emerging very, very quickly and focused on the response to COVID-19. Now, one thing I've seen from this COVID gig segment that I've talked to, particularly young millennials who college ended early for them this year, or they had jobs that no longer exist. My nephew, who's been living with us here in Colorado, he's from Indiana, worked in a arts crafts pottery store in Longmont, Colorado. Well, with no tourists, nobody visiting the area, he got furloughed, right? So he's out trying to find a COVID gig opportunity. And what is interesting is that people are saying, oh, Walmart needs to hire 100,000 people, but people who are trying to apply for those jobs put their names in and then never hear anything. So there's this gap between hey, I'm willing to do that work. And then the flip side is I've put my name in, but I haven't heard anything. So I think there's still some challenges in what I'm calling this COVID gig economy. Another one that I think could be interesting is one that my wife and I are experiencing, or actually providing this service, is what I call virtual babysitting. Virtual babysitting. Now, as a grandparent, we have historically provided babysitting services for our, for our kids. We have daughter, son-in-law, and 2 grandkids living here in northern Colorado. Now, the result of that, though, is that with COVID-19, it's not like they could drop the kids off to go to a movie, or they could drop the kids off for the weekend and they can go away and just have some, time alone with just the 2 of them. That's not available under COVID-19. So what do we do with this, right? And I know a number of parents are stressed out, particularly not only with the fact that you got the kids at home, but you're expected to homeschool teach them, plus both spouses in close proximity, nonstop in the house. I can greatly appreciate the stresses and struggles. So one of the things my wife and I started doing, and I think there is an opportunity, and it's a new segment, and that is virtual babysitting. So 2 to 3 times a week, my wife and I will get on our Facebook portal. And we have a Facebook portal TV version. There's Facebook portal devices which look like different shaped tablets. And these are devices that allow you to connect upwards of 6 or 7 people together. And we have it hooked up onto the TV out in the living room. And what's interesting with it is that we actually bring together all of our grandkids. We have 2 in Colorado and 3 in Florida. And 2 to 3 times a week, we sit there and we schedule a time with everybody. We get all 5 of the grandkids on their portals so they can see us, we can see them. My wife and I take turns reading books. So we do the bedtime stories at night. So this is the story they hear. And our grandkids run from age 8 being the oldest, 3 being the youngest. And so we read them a bedtime story. Recently, we've added on a craft tied to the story. So we'll tell their parents, hey, Wednesday's story is on dinosaurs. So make sure all the kids have their favorite dinosaur with them. And then they do a little show and tell, like, this is my favorite dinosaur, and why do I like it, and here's the name I gave it, and da-da-da-da-da-da-da. And I actually did the dinosaur story. I had a dinosaur, told my dinosaur story, and what I had named my dinosaur, etc. And then we actually pick songs from, we use iHeartRadio or Spotify or whatever, and Facebook portal allows you to stream the audio. The point here is that we set it up so that we entertain the kids for about an hour, maybe a little longer. And let me tell you, when that session starts and we start, with the kids, the parents disappear. They're either going to go grab a shower, they're going to go have some private time, they're just going to, go veg out on the back porch. They get an hour where they know we're watching the kids, and we're on with the parents via WhatsApp. So if one of the kids wanders off, we can send them a message saying, hey, so-and-so's wandered off. We can't see them on the portal anymore. They can kind of interject if they needed to. This has turned out to be huge. My kids love it. The grandkids love it. And it's giving the parents a little bit of a break. So I think there's a new career opportunity, new market segment. We always talked about babysitting as being a critical service. I think finding ways, creating tools, creating best practices, lessons learned for virtual babysitting to kind of take the pressure as a result of what's being done with COVID-19. We'll be right back after this quick commercial break. And when we come back, we'll continue on with more ideas about what new customer segments could emerge as a result of COVID-19. COVID-19. So what are some other ideas with regards to new customer segments that could emerge as a result of COVID-19? One that I was thinking about, and this is also tied into the fact that Zoom has been a longtime sponsor of my nationally syndicated talk radio show and the podcast and videos like this. So we're big Zoom users. One of the segments that or new ideas that I think are as a result of COVID-19 is what I call virtual background creators. If I could spell, I'd be dangerous. Virtual background creators. And I think this is an interesting one because given that the amount of people that have jumped onto Zoom as a result of COVID-19 has been absolutely astounding. And as I said, Zoom has been a sponsor of the radio show for more than 5 years now. We have a very close long-term relationship with Zoom. Eric Ewing, who's the founder and CEO at Zoom, is an old longtime friend when I was CTO at HP, and he was at Cisco at the time. So one of the things that I got a lot of questions on early on was around virtual backgrounds. Now, if you remember at the beginning of the show, even in the studio here in Colorado, and I'll go back to that shot so that you can see it, you can see the virtual background that we have here in the studio. Now, the picture that is behind me of the mountains is actually the picture from our property here, looking onto Long's Peak at Rocky Mountain National Park. So, but rather than try to create that window and deal with lighting and when the sun is setting in the evening and all that, we created it as a virtual background. So if you've been on Zoom calls with me, you have seen this virtual background. It's the one that I standardly used. Very well done, very nicely structured. The windows and all of that have been put in place digitally, and it was done by the graphic artist Kirk Nelson that does a lot of the work of all the graphics and social media branding and all that you've seen for the radio shows, all done by Kirk. So Kirk created this virtual background. So as a result, the idea behind the virtual background is really around the fact that when you go off and you buy, website themes. If you're a WordPress user, you go off and you buy a theme to make your WordPress site look nice. It has, pre-designed activities. I think the same is going to happen. Just taking a blank picture and putting it in as your virtual background. Okay, we've all done that over the last 5 weeks. Virtual backgrounds, I think, are going to become just as important in conveying your professional status, making you look, making your interaction with you in a Zoom call even more memorable. So I think there's a whole new kind of segment of customers who are going to be looking for virtual backgrounds and those that can create those. And it's not just taking a high-res picture and slapping it up into the virtual background. You need to structure them. In my case, it's a picture of Long's Peak scaled to look proportional to me, the windowing with green screen in order to make the mountains appear through the glass, all those kinds of things. It's a designed activity. And I think that's what we're going to start seeing as a result of COVID-19. I think the days of, everybody rushing back into an office is not going to happen. I think the virtual office activities is going to be different. We've never had virtual background creators before. You're starting to see some of those advertised on Facebook and those kinds of things, but I think they're going to become even more important now. And I just think people are not going to rush back to be in the office in order to be able to do the typical work environment. I think people are going to stay home and work from home. Zoom has become the most popular tool for doing that, and therefore, as a result, they, the needs for lighting, and I've got studio lighting here in the studio. I have a green screen behind me, which allows me to appear as I am right now in the lower corner of the video. So I think people are going to make those kinds of investments to create an environment so that you can be more productive, you can be more effective, you can be even more engaged with the activities that you need to do in order to be successful in your career, your business, family, etc. So I call those virtual background creators, but I think it's also about how do you create the tools that allow people to even be more productive than what we have been in the last 5 weeks serving at home. So with that, we're going to wrap up those being just kind of the rough kind of ideas. If you look up here at the top, you'll see where it shows you 2 of 2 different kind of boards. So we'll go pop back to one. First one, this is one we came up with. What customer segments could significantly be impacted as a result of COVID-19? And sports and concerts, travel influencers, dependent on tourists, home buyers, foodies. I think people are eating more at home. And then I think the whole germ conscious segment is definitely going to emerge out. In the current one, the one we just worked on, what new customers could emerge? I think social distancing butler. I have that effectively with my kids. Something kind of a little bit tangent to it is the COVID gig economy. I think virtual babysitting. My wife and I are providing those services today. And then virtual background creators. Purpose here is not to say these are the only. This is to show you brainstorming, virtual brainstorming, the use of tools, and hopefully what I've presented here will give you a couple of spark ideas on how to think about your business differently. And with that, let me know what you think of the virtual brainstorming and if I should do more of these. If they spark ideas, feel free to propose a topic and a killer question for a virtual brainstorm. If there's something you'd want me to do a live brainstorming as part of a video like this, send it over. We'll give it a try. Thanks for joining me today. Do not forget to subscribe. You do not want to miss future shows. And don't forget, pay it forward. Help by telling other people about the show. That'd be greatly appreciated. Thanks. We'll see you next week. Stay safe. Bye-bye.